This video is brought to you by T-Blocks. T-Blocks is a unique t-shirt subscription service where you can choose between an awesome licensed shirt or artist designed shirt delivered to your door every month. Affordable prices starting at $6.99 for a 12-month subscription or $8.99 a month can get you amazing t-shirts from such licenses as Disney, Marvel, DC, Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, Naruto, Star Wars, and many more. Subscribe with my promo code StrikeUTBX for 10% off the entire order.
Hey, what is up, guys? Strike here, coming at you with my first ever Mezco 112 Collective action figure review, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Green Arrow. And this is my Christmas present, or at least the big main centerpiece Christmas present for this year, and it's also my fourth Mezco 112 Collective figure. And I am so excited to have Green Arrow in my collection because he's one of my favorite all-time superheroes. And this is just the packaging. I've already opened up the figure and messed around with it for a little bit. I was not able to come over to the studio until late tonight. It's Christmas evening, and I was not going to be able to wait throughout the day to open up this guy and mess around with him. So he's already out of the packaging, just a heads up. Here's the side of the packaging. Green Arrow, we get the Green Arrow logo, and then we get the Mezco Toyz.com. On the other side, we get Green Arrow, and then 112 Collective. And of course, this is our Green Arrow logo. It's also kind of like a G, but it's, you know, mainly an arrow head. So that's really cool. We got 112 Collective on the top. We don't got much on the bottom, but a barcode and some copyright information. On the back, we got some images of the Green Arrow and, you know, him being posed around and stuff with the Green Arrow emblem at the top. We slide off the slip cover like so, and we get the same images back here. We get mostly the same thing, except for here it says Green Arrow, and this is nice and embossed, or whatever the word is. We open it up here, and this is where the figure is displayed, and we got a really nice image, which I believe is actually from Green Arrow Year 1, if I'm not mistaken, but it's very, very nice. I love these boxes. They're so cool. Anyways, let's get on to the figure. Next up, we have 5 pairs of hands for Green Arrow. We have a regular pair of fists, which come on the figure when you open them up. We get a pair of these, which at first I thought they were kind of like throwing hands, like he's throwing something, which can totally be it, but I also think that it's probably supposed to be like after he is releasing an arrow, this is the hand that you can use to show that he just let go of the string there on the bow. And then we have the actual drawback for a single arrow hand, so like holding an arrow with the bow. And these are all like really nice. I really like the tactical look and feel of them, and the color of green is really nice. And then we get these hands, which are pretty much for holding the bow. And of course, if you know anything about archery, when you're right-handed, you hold the bow in your left and you draw back with your right. So whatever hand you are, either left or right, is the hand that you use to pull back the arrow. And then we get a different set of hands. This hand is meant for holding the triple arrow set, and then this hand is actually, it doesn't have any kind of opening on it, and it's just kind of in this position. I think what it's supposed to be is that archers do this thing with their hands, I guess, because, you know, they're so used to like pulling back bows or arrows and stuff with their bow. And I think that's what this is supposed to be. Actually, Stephen Amell, the actor who plays Arrow on the show Arrow, is very familiar with this, and it is, I guess, a real archer thing. But yeah, those are the hands that comes with Green Arrow. Okay, so now for the actual arrows and the bow. So here we have a set of arrows that is meant to just sit in the quiver and look nice, make it look like he's got a trifecta of arrows in there, like a whole set of arrows. Then we get the triple arrow bundle, which is meant to be held all 3 at the same time. They're not perfectly aligned up, which is kind of weird on mine. I don't know if that's just an error, although it is kind of funky. Like the actual, like, all of them have these little, like, nudges in there so that they can align up with the string, but none of these are lined up properly, so that's not really an option with this one. It's mainly just you kind of just got to make it look like that's what he's doing, and you can do so with the hands. But that is the triple arrow set. Then of course we get one single silver tipped arrow, which is really nice. It's the main arrow that you would want to use. We also get a specialized arrow. This could be like a gas bomb arrow or knockout gas or just an explosive arrow altogether. Could even be a tracking device arrow. It could be anything you want it to be because there's not really a specific name for it. Then we get a grapple arrow. It is what it is. It's just a little hook. It's honestly probably my least favorite out of these, but it is really nice to have and it is a really cool accessory. The only problem with it is you can't fit it inside the quiver and there's no articulation for these things to move it down or anything like that, which wasn't expected, but you know, there's nothing going on there. And then there's this awesome Kryptonite Arrow straight out of the Dark Knight Returns, which I really like. It goes great if you have the Mezco Superman, either one. It's really cool and I like it a lot. And then of course here is the actual bow itself. The string is pretty strong, although I will say I am kind of frightened to get it into any kind of actual like far back pose. I feel like I'm gonna break it and I don't want to do that. So posing him with an arrow and a bow in his hand is kind of like, you can't do a full pose with it. But that is the bow. Now let's move on to the actual figure himself. Now, like most of your Mezco 112 figures, Green Arrow comes with, of course, his Green Arrow stand with the emblem. It is supposed to be like this because of the placement of this. This is also the only one that I have that actually has a solid color instead of just a clear plastic like we have over here with the figure stand. And it's articulated. It rotates here. This is actually removable. I don't know for what purpose. But it's removable. The clamp is. And then you got your little claw here to hold onto the waists or the legs or whatever you want to do. It's articulated just like so. And you can easily replace this by just popping out. Well, that doesn't work. It goes like this. No, it should be this way. There it is. This is, oh damn, that's really stiff. Holy crap. Maybe I can, there we go. Remove that and stick that in there. And that is really not wanting to go in. Why? Why isn't that going in? Mine's molded kind of odd. I guess that might be why. But yeah, that's not wanting to go in. So, I mean, I wasn't going to be using this anyway, but for some reason this one specifically does not want to go in. So, first time I messed with that, put that back in because that's how I'm going to be using it. But that's the stand that comes with the Green Arrow. So Ollie here is got his hands on and he's ready to be posed with a bow. I will get into something first before I get into the actual figure. I did totally forget that he has a knife on the back here that slides right into this little pocket on the back of his neat little belt there, and it is pretty cool. The arrow, or the hand that is meant for holding the triple arrows, is the hand that is best compatible with it. Where did it go? Where is it? It's right here. It's the hand that you're going to want to... darn it. It's the hand that you're going to want to use when you are using the knife, if you choose to do so, which I don't really ever really care for Oliver or Green Arrow having a knife, but it is kind of neat if he needs to like stab someone in the shoulder or something. It's pretty cool. I like that he has it. I think it's pretty cool. I think he's got it in Injustice, and you know, being stranded on an island, you know, he's going to be a survivor. It's a survival tool. So I think that's mainly why he has it. But here we go. He's got a really nice like outfit going on. I was afraid he was going to go for some, like, I'm not crazy about this specific look for Green Arrow. Obviously being a fan of the TV show, and I'm glad they didn't go with like a straight up traditional Green Arrow because I already have the DCUC Green Arrow for that. But I really like this mix. It's not too like Injustice Gods Among Us for me, but it is... it does have some things that I'm not too crazy about. Like, I don't really care for the design where he's got like this belt with like all these things sliding down, and it makes sense. I'm also not a fan of the black pants. That's just a personal preference for my Green Arrow. I will say that I really like the hood because it's got a wire in it and it's posable and you can do all sorts of things with it. It is kind of a pain in the butt to make it look real and make it look like it's an actual hood and whatnot. And there is a wire going down the center of it as well, so you can kind of pose it downwards like that. And if you have it down, and the head sculpt is really nice. The forehead looks a little off to me, but I think they messed up a little slight bit with the shading, but that's totally fine. It looks all right aside from that. You can't get the best range of movement with the head, at least not backwards because of the hood, but you can make him look down, and you can get some pivot in there, and you can make him look like all kinds of directions. Of course, side to side is the main one that you're going to probably want, especially if he's an archer. And you can, again, you can pose the hood so that like when you have it on and he is ready to aim, you can bend the wires a certain way to have him looking in the direction he needs to so that he can aim his bow properly, which is of course ideal. This little leather hoodie thing does have a zipper down it, but it is pretty much impossible, I can already tell you, to get this rubber thing off without cutting it in some way, to get the quiver off and whatnot. It's all one piece, I believe. Yep, it's all attached, so there's no way to detach any of that, and that's on there. I'm sure if it was like, you know, green under there, it would probably actually look cool, but you know, I don't have any desire to do so, and it looks too, I mean, I want my green arrow to have a hood anyways. I don't really care for any of the other ways. Now first of all, getting the hands on was kind of a pain with this figure for me because they just are really stiff and don't want to go on. Probably a good idea to heat these up before I do it from now on. And I would recommend doing the same with just about any Mezco figure. But getting the bow in his hand is also kind of annoying because this is the only hand that is really meant for holding the bow. And it's kind of a pain to get it on there. And you want to make sure that the string is on the inner part of his arm. Again, like a lot of the torso articulation, and he does have standard Mezco, like he does have somewhat of a pivot and a rotation at the chest and whatnot, and the usual standard Mezco articulation there, but it's pretty much all hindered by the leather hoodie. Man, this is not wanting to go over the hands right now, or over the bow. Darn it, come on, fingies. Fingies. Oh man, see, I feel like I'm gonna end up like bending this hand so much that it's just not going to want to hold it. It's not going to form around it properly, and it's not going to grip it. All right, so there we go. We got the bow on there. He does have double jointed elbows, but they're not really all that amazing. Like, they don't bend as much as some of the other figures, like the Batman or the Reverse Flash that I have. He does have a swivel here, and of course he's got the bicep thing going on, which is exposed, which is really nice. He does have, you know, the rotation at the, I believe, a thigh. I think that's a thigh, right? Or is that just up in the hip? I can't tell. He does have a really good leg articulation, though. So if you really wanted to get him on one knee, whether to aim his bow properly or to propose to Black Canary, he can totally do so. I really like how much he can get down and funky with that. Of course, he does have the pin and swivel and stuff with the ball joint going on in the hand, and then the ankles are pretty much non-existent. I mean, they can rotate a little bit, but that's where a lot of the problems come in with the articulation trying to pose him while he's aiming, is that his feet don't really necessarily like wanna rotate the way you want them to. But getting him into a pose, let's go ahead here and have him prepared to aim. And again, you're not going to get him in the most ideal pose, because that would be something like this, and that would require stretching the string all the way back here. And not only would the articulation not allow you for that, it's just going to end up bending. It's just going to pull. This cord is so strong that it's going to end up pulling back on the arm and bending it. And when you're aiming, you want to keep straight. But also, I just don't want it to go back that far in fear of breaking it, because my DC Collectibles Arrow figure did end up breaking the cord and I had to reattach it, and it was not fun. But let's slide that in there. Oh, okay, there we go. We want to make sure those two fingers are around the string. We want to make sure that the arrow is aligned up right on there on that little bridge. His head is posed right, and there we go. We have Green Arrow in a arrow aiming pose, and this is the best you're gonna get him. The arrow isn't gonna be completely drawn back or anything like that, but that is what is going to be coming out of it. And of course, you can use, you know, the other arrows instead of this one. And then there's a special hand again for the triple arrow. You can also have him aiming like that, with his hand back there, which is also a nice pose to do. And then of course you can always have him with his bow down here and his hand. You're gonna wanna get it down here like this and pull it up like that. And let's get a different arrow. Let's get the grapple hook, since it's pretty much my least favorite, and I'm probably not gonna use it as much. You wanna get that little needle thing in there. Needle, the thread. And there we go. There's his grapple. And he's ready to aim and pull up his bow and shoot. Again, really liking it. Of course, I love archery and I love Green Arrow, so that's so much fun that he's able to do the poses, even with the torso piece here, the torso article of clothing, this hoodie thing. It's really fun to mess around with it. And again, the wire in the hood allows, for the most part, so it's good that it's there because it can form the hood into the proper shape. It's just a matter of forming it to that shape that it needs to be in. But one of the best things about this figure, in my opinion, is just the paint on some of the like the gauntlets and the boots and the quiver. They look so good and they look so awesome. Having just a little scratches here and there, like you know that he's worn it and been in battle and stuff, and that he looks like he's ready to take on whoever. This is such an awesome piece. Like, all that detail makes the figure worth it. And, you know, just being a Green Arrow fan, just having him, I mean, what other kind of pose are you going to do other than just him aiming his bow? I mean, honestly, that's all you really need. And it is fun to pose him around and stuff, but being an archer, you know, the main thing that he's going to want to do is he's going to want to aim and shoot his bow and launch some arrows into people and all that, including this awesome Kryptonite Arrow. I really like the Kryptonite Arrow a lot. I like, you know, the whole Dark Knight Returns inspiration thing. Oh gosh, here we go. And this is an example of not posing the figure right, because now I gotta readjust the bow and the hand and everything. So just like make sure when you're posing it that it's coming out all right. So there we go. Clark Kent, meet your worst nightmare. Haha, I love it. I love this a lot. I really like this a lot. And the bow can fire the arrows. It's just simple physics. But I don't want to lose any of them, so I'm not even going to show it off. You can try it for yourself and lose your own arrows, but I will not be doing that for the sake of this video because I like this figure too much. Now, let's get into some other figures that I can compare the size to. Okay, here's the Mezco 112 Collective Green Arrow next to the DC Icon Supergirl figure and the Marvel Legends Symbiote Spider-Man. Here's the Here's the Mezco 112 Green Arrow next to the DC Multiverse Flash from the Justice League movie and a DC UC Flash, or at least that's what he basically is, in a size comparison, and they fit pretty good in scale, although I do prefer Green Arrow to be a little bit taller than the Flash. And here's the 112 Green Arrow finally next to the 112 Collective Dawn of Justice Batman and the 112 Collective Reverse Flash figure. Now, one thing that is a little frustrating with this guy is he is, without the hood, he is almost, Reverse Flash wants to fall over because his feet are sculpted differently. One thing I do have a gripe with this figure, getting him out of the packaging, like opening him up for the first time, I looked at him and I just kind of thought, man, he looks a little tall. And getting him out of the packaging and then standing him next to Batman, he is just about the same height as Batman. And that is totally fine, except for the fact that in some angles, he looks taller than Batman. And that's a problem that I have with it. I mean, don't get me wrong, Green Arrow has every right to be just as tall as Batman. But I feel like now that I'm having these figures, I feel like Batman here is a little out of scale because the Superman is almost taller than the Batman too. He's just about the same size as these two guys right here in the center. And he is just so much taller. I think Henry Cavill, I think, is like 6'1", I think. And I know Ben Affleck's like 6'4". I know he's a tall dude. But it's kind of funny to me too because Reverse Flash is, to me, one of my favorite supervillains ever, and he's supposed to be super intimidating, and yet he is very short compared to these guys. He's just like, he's puny. As you can see there, he just kind of gets stuck in the middle being the small fry. But I absolutely love having Batman and Green Arrow together, and then having the Green Arrow with the Kryptonite Arrow and the 112 Superman, who's not here right now. But it's just such a cool little thing to have, like an assembly of some of my favorite superheroes. It's just such a cool figure. So I really dig the Mezco 112 Green Arrow figure. Of course, I'm a huge fan of the character, and I love the show personally. And I really like, you know, the Kevin Smith comics and I got a little fray there, you know, the Year One novel. All of the Green Arrow comics that I've read so far, I just absolutely love, including the Rebirth line. This figure is a must-have for me if you're a Green Arrow fan. Personally, I believe that this is the ideal Green Arrow figure to have right now. There's not really anything else out there that exists that I can think of that's better than this. I'm not a huge fan of the DC Collectibles figures. The DC Icons Green Arrow is okay, although the design isn't my first choice for Green Arrow. And I really just think that this Green Arrow is the definitive figure if you want a Green Arrow in your collection that has a lot of cool accessories. The articulation it's not the best it could be, but it's enough for what the figure is and who the character is. And I just think that this figure is just awesome, and I love looking at it. It's just so cool. Anyways, guys, if you like this review, please leave a like and make sure you subscribe for more. I do have more Mezco 112 figures on the way for 2018, so get ready for a slew throughout the year of Mezco 112 figure reviews, including, but not limited to, Deathstroke, Wonder Woman, Batman Ascending Knight, Spider-Man Homecoming. I'd like to pick up the Michael Myers from Halloween, and hopefully some other figures too. I have not reviewed Batman, Superman, or Reverse Flash at all. If you have any interest whatsoever in seeing a review from me on any of those three figures, leave a comment down below letting me know that you want to see that. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for checking this out, and I'll see you all in the next video. Later, taters.